Hey there, guys. So, many of you may not know this about me, but I recently moved from New York City to the beautiful Republic of California. And it has been such an amazing journey for me. Los Angeles, it's got beautiful weather. The people are amazing. Hollywood, people with dreams and ambitions. I truly... Who is that? What are you doing here? No. We talked about this. I am not coming back.
Come to me.
What are you doing to me? What are you? No, where did you come from? What are you doing here?
This is your...
No, I will not go back to the subways. I'm not gonna deal with the dreadful winters. I don't care about Broadway! Hey, what's going on, guys? Paul Castro Jr. here, and while you're dreaming either about the New York skyscrapers or the luscious palm trees of Los Angeles, why don't you give a like and subscribe, and I'll help you decide on which one of those cities is best for you pursuing a career in voiceover. New York and Los Angeles have primarily been the places to be if you wanted to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. Now, that's not entirely true today, that you'd have to be located in one of these cities to have a career as an actor, or what I want to talk about, a voice actor. There are tons of places you can live besides those two major markets to have a career doing voiceover, voice acting, and even on-camera acting and theater. So before we talk about the two major players, I want to talk about the other places you might be pursuing if you want to get a career in voiceover started. So if you look at all major cities or states that have large metropolises within their state, such as Nashville, Austin, or Dallas, or Atlanta, or Miami, Charlottesville, Cleveland, San Diego, San Francisco. There are so many cities that have a very vast and rich voiceover industry in them. So before you even consider whether you should go to New York or LA, you need to ask yourself, are you ready to play in the most competitive markets available? And not that these other cities that aren't these two big Goliaths aren't competitive, because they are. Just because you say, I want to go, maybe I should start in Atlanta or somewhere else, that doesn't mean that's going to be the easy road and you're going to be the big fish in the small pond. Because it is so competitive right now. Voiceover is being revolutionized as we speak, especially with the pandemic that we're currently in as I'm recording this video, if you're watching it in the future, or the past. But home studios are becoming a necessity to pursue a career in VO. Now, you could be living in North Dakota and you can have an agent in Cleveland and Boston and going out for their local commercials if they are casting people with home studios at the broadcast professional level. And I think that is going to be changing more and more as we see currently with the demand for the top of the line microphones and quality interfaces. Not that that is what is important. It's more important about your acoustics and your space, but the production companies and casting hasn't really gone on that wave yet. So I think it's important for you to have all your tools as a business to be up to the quality standard that is being expected, which will be changing. So it's being in tune with the community and the market and the necessities that they're requiring for certain projects if you want to stay relevant and be bookable. So if you want to get started, get your feet wet, you haven't done much of anything before, but you've done a lot of free projects, you've worked on student films and other online castings that were non-paid, a smaller market might be the place for you. There are tons of opportunities in industrial, e-learning, phone, obviously radio, because every major local market has a radio station, a regional radio ads for businesses that are in the area, and even television. So with all of these different categories available, even though they're not animation, video games, maybe the larger scale of commercial stuff, you can make a hefty living, and there's plenty of people out there who do, in these smaller cities doing VO. Now, let's say you have an interest in pursuing anime dubbing, which is typically Japanese cartoons that are voiced by foreign casts and then dubbed into English. Dallas and Austin have become two major cities, obviously both in Texas, that people are flocking to pursue this because Funimation, which is one of the largest production companies responsible for shows like Dragon Ball Z or recently My Hero Academia, to do this. But if something like working at Funimation is your goal, it is extremely competitive, and you probably won't be able to show up, knock on the door, and be getting a role in a major show. Everybody's got to pay their dues, and that's actually how it is in most markets. Now, I'm sure there's other places and cities where certain genres of VO are more predominant, but I'm not going to be getting into that. I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of some of the other things and places available. I want to get on to the two big contenders, New York and LA. Now, if your dream is to work in animation, let's say shows like Disney, Pixar, Cartoon Network even, or the Marvel shows that are being produced, Los Angeles is the place to be. Now, LA is not only known for its animation work available, it is also the Goliath in terms of video games, interactive, and motion capture. Most of the video game companies that have the big titles that we all know and love are actually located in Los Angeles. Not that some don't have offices other places, but companies like EA, Square Enix, and Blizzard are all located in or around Los Angeles. For many years, LA has had the monopoly on animation and video games, but this is changing due to the capabilities of people being able to record from home and also New York becoming a big contender. In years past, if you wanted to be on a show for Nickelodeon or Disney or Pixar, things that I mentioned before, you had to live in LA. You had to have an agent out here who had access to those castings and breakdowns and relationships with the companies, and you would go into the studio and record it. But as I talked about before, with the home recording capabilities being more and more accessible to everyday people, anybody can set up a properly treated room and get good acoustics, have a decent mic and interface, and be able to do this out of the comfort of their own closets. But I will say that if your goal is to do animation and video games, LA is still a great place to be. A lot of what it takes to become a voice actor is predicated on your networking capabilities. You may be extremely talented, have a great home studio, but if you're located out of the city, it's going to be hard to reach the people who are responsible for casting these shows, other than auditioning through your agents if they can even get you that audition. I do believe there will still be a large portion of shows recorded in LA, and it's still going to have this monopoly over the animation and video game industry, especially for motion capture because it requires you to be physically there. But that is going to change, and you will have opportunities, and if you are that good, I would argue that some of these companies will fly you out to record your spot. Now, LA also has a ton of commercial work done here. Obviously, the on-camera stuff has a lot of VO, and these production companies that are doing this stuff in-house are going to be casting the VO stuff also out of LA, and there's a large radio market out here because everybody drives everywhere. But the biggest thing about LA is that there are so many people trying to do this that the competition is fierce. If you're just starting out and you don't really have many credits behind you, moving to LA can be very daunting because no one's going to know you, and most of these casting offices are focusing on the people that they know already. And most agencies don't want to take a chance on new people because they have so many of them to begin with. They only get so many spots to send into each casting, and risking stuff on new people that aren't really known isn't going to ensure that one of their clients is going to book that job. Now, this is not a blanket statement for all agencies. This is my personal opinion, but in my experience, it is going to be very hard if you are green to move to LA and expect to make a living in your first few years. You're gonna have to pay your dues. Now, New York, on the other hand, I lived there for almost 10 years. I grew up there, and it is a beautiful place, and it is thriving, and the amount of stuff being done there is only increasing. Typically, there weren't many video games being done. Rockstar was one of the biggest companies, but a lot more are going to New York or casting out of New York or the cities that surround the tri-state area. And as I mentioned, with this current state of having home recording capabilities, a lot of these New York offices are being reached out to by the casting directors in LA to get some of the great talent that comes out of the theater scene or the New York acting scene. In my own experience, I have a LA agent and a New York agent. I've been seeing more and more animation and video game stuff come from my New York agent than I've ever seen before. And I know personally that they are making these connections. They're going out of their way to make the connections with the LA offices, at least in my own experience with my own agency, because the proof has been in the pudding. And they're also communicating that to us. So it wouldn't be my first choice to move if you're looking and only pursuing a career in video games. That also goes for animation too, at the SAG-AFTRA level. As I was saying, most of the union animation jobs are being done out of these production companies or the production offices in LA, but there is a tremendous non-union animation scene in New York. A lot of houses that are doing anime dubbing or cartoon dubbing from foreign languages into the American markets, and also just typical shows that are on network television that are things we know and love. So if you're just starting out, I think New York is a great place, obviously, to train and then pursue VO. There are so many great acting schools, there's so many great VO coaches, and the community, the voice actors of New York, there's so much going on, all the conferences that go on there. There are endless opportunities for people if you want to start out or even have a thriving career in VO. And the main reason why most people flock to New York to make a living doing VO is because most of the high-end commercial stuff that is union is still done out of New York. Also, there is a ton of promo being done out of New York. The things that are like coming up next, the things you see before or promoting TV shows to come. I made my entire early career doing promo for Nickelodeon as well as commercials. And lastly, if you have any interest at all at doing audiobooks at the highest level, Audible, which is located in Newark, New Jersey, which is a stone throws away over the river, that is the mecca for audiobooks. Now, you can still do ACX stuff anywhere you live, but if you're interested in doing audiobooks with Audible at that high level, although I said it's probably going to be changing, if you're starting out and they don't know you, you're gonna have to live somewhere near the tri-state area. Now, one last thing I want to mention about living in New York and having a home studio is that it is very, very noisy. If you live in the city like I did, it was almost impossible to record during normal business hours. Everything was either super early, right after rush hour, or at night when everyone was asleep because it was impossible with the sounds of the city to do anything. Now that I live in LA, not that there aren't similar city problems, but I live out in the suburbs, which is still 20 minutes away, and there's not that city loudness, people on top of each other, and I was able to build out this studio. Now, not everybody's going to do that. This was my own personal opinion, but a lot of the big voice actors actually live in the surrounding suburbs of LA to achieve a home studio. So in my opinion, there is no better or worse. It's really what is right for you. Where are you at in your career? Lifestyle-wise, what are the things that you want? Do you want to be closer to the beach, or do you want to be closer to Broadway? Do you want to live in the city with all this culture around you, or do you want something a little bit more quiet and the ability to pursue an on-camera career? Like I said, the smaller cities are a great place to start. Get your feet wet, build your reels, your demos, your resumes, your connections, so that you can have experience working before you enter the larger markets. Again, guys, the industry is rapidly changing, and this entire video may be moot in a couple of weeks. But I hope that it helps you if you're looking to either make a decision or if you've been considering a decision in pursuing a voiceover career. Thanks again, guys, and if you've enjoyed this video, if you could give a like and subscribe, it would truly mean a lot to me. Much love to you all, and as always, I look forward to hearing you all very soon.